Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Where am I today? Well, I'm out here in beautiful North Colorado. I'm at the corporate headquarters of the National Association for Gun Rights, and I'm about to do an interview, and it's a very unique interview. Listen, I look at my analytics on my channel all the time. I know that most of the people that watch my channel kind of look like me and are about the same age as me. This is not necessarily a video for you, but it is going to be for your late teens and early 20 kids, because I believe that between mainstream media and public education, they are getting a lot of bad information and bad messaging about what our inalienable Second Amendment rights really mean to us. So today, I'm going to sit down with one of the youngest employees at the National Association for Gun Rights, Ian Brown, and we're going to pick his brain about what's true, what's not true, and how we can start winning this battle of intellect amongst the younger people in this country. So today, let's spend a few minutes, and let's sit down and have a conversation with Ian Brown. All right, hey, like I said, I am here with Ian Brown. He is the digital media director and coordinator here at the National Association for Gun Rights. And you are usually behind the camera, but I have...
Almost always.
But I have convinced you to come out in front of the camera because I think that you got a very unique perspective on things. And as a young person, I think that there are a lot of young people out there that are being fed bad information about our Second Amendment rights, about firearms in general. I think that you probably running around in social circles like that have probably heard people your age, when you tell them what they do for a living, they kind of have this look of repulsion on them and then probably come up with some soundbite.
Yeah, a lot of misconceptions. And I mean, the main thing is the social media that appeals to younger people, there's sort of a pattern.
Yeah.
Especially in what people engage with and what's the most interesting to them,
Yep.
where it has put a lot of people my age in an echo chamber. Even with people who are more conservative on other issues, there's something so inflammatory about the gun issue because guns kill kids but guns murder bad.
Right. Well, let's talk about some of the things that you're at a social setting and, oh, hey, my name's Ian and I work for the National Association for Gun Rights, and that young lady goes, oh, what do you do there? And then you explain what you do, and then she looks like, she just drank sour milk or something.
Right.
And then she throws out, I can't believe that you'd work for a gun organization. Guns kill kids. How many school shootings do we have in this country? And candidly, why do they only happen in the United States? What do you say, like, when someone throws that out at you?
Right. So when people bring up the numbers of how many school shootings have happened in the U.S., I think one thing that always flies over their head is that we've had guns for a long time. And plenty of other countries still have guns. I mean, Switzerland...
one of the most armed countries on the planet.
One of the most armed countries
Yes.
on the planet, and yet they don't have the school shooting problem like we do. So clearly there is some underlying social situation that's causing these. And on top of that, the actual numbers, because most studies done on gun violence in the first place are pretty biased, or they're being commissioned by people in the government to
by
prove their
Bloomberg
point.
groups or the Gun Violence Archives or any of that, who
Exactly.
clearly cooked the books, yes.
Right, and so the actual statistics of school shootings in the U.S. is counting negligent discharges, right? And I couldn't put a number on, how many country boys were at my school and would, be in the parking lot, and my dad owns this, and we're going hunting afterwards. And it's very clear that if you sort those out, right, and sort out the actual boosted media attention for every time there is
a really horrific incident,
a terrible school shooting, those numbers are pretty small.
So, but when people say, well, there are other, like Switzerland, for example, they have plenty of arms. They don't have that problem there. Why do you believe that this problem occurs then in the United States?
I'm not sure. I mean, it mostly is happening with non-gang related violence and mass shootings and stuff. It's starting to happen for the most part from a younger crowd that's causing the shootings in the first place. And so I think it's sort of a social situation set up by social media.
Yeah, if you take a look at a lot of school shooters and you go back in their past, you're not going to find very often that they're coming from a loving dual-parent home.
Right.
You're often going to find that there were social outcasts in school.
Yeah.
Oftentimes a career of being bullied. So I do think that there are a lot of societal and mental health issues that go into that. What about those people who say, well, you know what, though? If we just ban the guns, then we wouldn't have this problem at all. Just restrict access to guns and then, problem solved, right?
Right. One of the biggest things I hear is, well, murder's bad, right? And even if people are going to commit murders, even if it's illegal, we still make it illegal so we can stop it after the fact, or maybe the punishment actually deters some of the crime. And even though there have been countless studies done on how punishments, for the most part, don't actually deter any crimes, the thing is, there are so many things that are illegal that people still have access to that there really aren't beneficial uses of. I don't think there's really a beneficial use of recreational cocaine, but yet
Portland seems to think so.
Portland,
Oregon,
seems to think so.
How's that working out for them, right?
But the thing is with guns is that, of course, there's a beneficial use to the Second Amendment, right? It's written in our Constitution. It was one of the
for a reason.
Yeah, it's one of the founding pillars of this country because there is a benefit with it. Even if, people will label parts of it as downsides, the thing is banning guns isn't going to make it illegal. That's why there are Glock switches and fully automatic weapons that gang members use, but no law-abiding citizen has access to.
When all the guns are illegal, only the illegals will have the guns.
Exactly. Precisely said, yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot of truth there. Well, and I think the other thing that we need to point out, again, because you're at an age where school shootings, you're still college age and you have some younger friends and things like that. There's a reason that schools are picked as targets. If you take a look at the Crime Prevention Research Center's statistics, Dr. John Lott, who's not, by the way, not a gun guy. He's just a real good mathematician and an objective in the way he looks at it. There's a reason that 92% of all mass shootings occur inside a gun-free zone.
Right. Well,
so when we ban the guns, and essentially a gun-free zone is a geographical location in which guns are banned. How's that working out for us?
Primarily the thing is with where shootings actually take place and gun-free zones and all that, people aren't going to be armed there. There'll be no one to stop you.
So lack of armed resistance.
So the thing is with gun-free zones and why you see shootings happen in primarily public places that don't have an actually enforceable rule but have signs saying gun-free zone, there'll be no one to stop you there.
That's right, because lawful and responsible gun owners have a tendency, shockingly, to obey the rules and the laws.
Right.
I'll give you a statistic that you can actually share with young people. Did you know that concealed carry holders in the United States have the lowest crime per capita rate of any demographic group by which we break down criminal activity, including lower than college-educated Asians?
Doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Think about what the crime rate is for college-educated Asians. It's literally at zero.
Yeah.
Okay. Practically at zero. So, okay. How about this one? I see young people all the time say this to me when they find out what I do for a living. What do you need that for? If you don't need that gun for self-defense, you don't need that gun to go hunt. So you should only have the firearms that you need. And of course, then the question is, who's defining our needs here? Well, how do you deal with young people who come at you with that one?
Well, the issue comes with I don't know if this is like movies or TV that inspired it, but there's this misconception that shotguns and pistols are about the only thing you can use for self-defense, even though we kind of know that AR-15s are more practical for self-defense. But what people really, it's this sort of parent attitude with the government, right, where it is almost inconceivable that anything will ever go wrong or we're a world without war. We'll never have to go back to the days where we have to rise up against the government or take our rights back for ourselves.
Right.
And I think in a general sense, maybe people are unwilling to do that in the first place, even if it was a specific right or freedom that they cared about enough. At least a lot of people.
And I think schools are doing a really bad job of educating the importance of our rights. Because here's the thing. Rights are not based on needs.
Right.
Like, I would never ask you, Ian, why do you need to go to church on Sunday?
Right.
One, it's none of my business. Okay? And number two, last time I checked, you don't need a need.
Right.
Okay? Why do you want to speak freely? Why do you need to be able to go out and express yourself freely? Why do you need to be free from unreasonable government searches and seizures? Why do you need to be free from cruel and unusual punishment? No one will ever ask you those questions about any of the other Bill of Rights.
Right.
Why?
I mean, because your high school civics class will teach those things.
Yes.
And to some extent, when they're I've heard teachers before, when they talk about the Second Amendment and they dance around it, they always link it to hunting or self-defense.
Or militias.
Or militias, right?
Militias,
Government-regulated militias.
Yep.
Even though our actual, the laws in the country in the first 50 years are very obvious what that militia statement intended. But the thing is, sorry.
Well, no. Let me ask you this question, because this is kind of the last question I wanted to ask you here, and this is, you were talking about the ability to repel a tyrannical government. Okay. Now, when you say that to young people, I'm guessing that a lot of them are like, government's got you totally outgunned. I mean, they got planes, they got nukes, they got tanks. What are you going to do? Okay. So, what's your response to that? I mean, because factually that is true.
Right.
But what's your response to that?
Well, I mean, the thing is the government going to nuke its own country? Very, very unlikely, right? And there are plenty of unstable countries all throughout the Middle East, all throughout Africa, that has access to pretty high-level weaponry, and yet, for example, the Taliban in 2017, I believe, or maybe it was 2021, they were taken over by a bunch of people with mud-covered AK-47s. How is that possible? But they have tanks. How could you outdo tanks? Right. And there's a certain amount of, and this is kind of similar with the gun-free zone thing, is that if you know that your population is armed, and you know that you're going to infringe on some freedoms or liberties and piss off 80% of your country that's armed, you know what risk you're taking.
Right, and so I think that what young people need to understand is it's not the ability to overthrow the government, but it is the ability to defend ourselves should government try to take away our rights, and that serves as the great deterrent.
Absolutely.
Right. Ultimately, government may win, but it's going to be a very costly win for them.
Right, and the thing is too is even with. Sometimes when people are talking about it, they'll bring up the amount of numbers, people that serve in our military. Well, how many of that are actually going to serve if they have to fight their family and neighbors?
Right.
So Ronald Reagan once said, trust but verify.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if I actually trust the government that much, to be honest. But even if you believe in order and rule of law and government and even a more authoritarian view to politics, the fact is that the government works for us.
That's right.
At the end of the day, the government works for us, and we need the power to fire them, just in case. No pun intended.
Okay.
So
here's my last question, and this is really to the young viewers out there. If they want to actually have people start just speaking the truth to them about the Second Amendment, so that they can make up their own minds as to what value they want to attach to it, based upon their own personal beliefs, but they've got to be operating on truthful, objective information. What can young people do to go out there and start educating themselves and getting the full story?
I would say it's easy to talk to gun owners. Talk to gun owners, ask them about their own personal experiences, go to the range, learn how to shoot, learn a little bit more about the firearms that you think are so dangerous. And on top of that, every time you hear certain statistics or numbers being pulled by the media or certain narratives being pushed, with just like any other political position, look at both sides and ask yourself, okay, which one's making more sense?
Right. Okay, listen, he's Ian Brown. He's here with the National Association for Gun Rights. Now, listen, I've been putting in plugs for him all week, and I mean this. There's a lot of organizations out there who will take your money. There are some that will take your money and then use it to fight like holy hell to win back your Second Amendment rights. National Association for Gun Rights is one of those organizations, and I believe everyone can join by visiting them at gunrights.org. Did I get that right?
Absolutely. Go to gunrights.org and join today.
Right there. Ian, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Okay, hey, listen, I want to thank Ian and everyone here at the National Association for Gun Rights. They have been absolutely fantastic hosts out here. I have thoroughly enjoyed my stay. Listen, if you want to get in the fight with NAGR, right there, gunrights.org, sign up today, get in the fight. They have been absolutely fighting like crazy for your inalienable rights for decades now. Listen, if you got any questions about this, or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now, but if you don't, that's okay. That information is down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, tell us by clicking on that link right there. It's probably going to be better than any idea we come up with. If you want to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, all the ability to do that is down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. From the NAGR headquarters here in beautiful northern Colorado, thanks for watching and stay safe.